This is my TNA Against All Odds 2011 pay-per-view review. The pay-per-view just went off there. And I gotta say, now this wasn't a terrible pay-per-view from TNA. It wasn't a great pay-per-view from TNA. I would say it was overall a pretty entertaining show and was kind of saved at least by 3 matches on this pay-per-view. In particular, both the Hardy Brothers matches. The match with Matt Hardy versus RVD was surprisingly a whole lot better than I was expecting. Jeff Hardy versus Mr. Anderson, the main event ladder match, was fairly good. I was expecting the match to get a little more time, but still a good ladder match. And even with the storyline and gimmick behind the whole Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle thing, that was at least a good match, and it wasn't the complete clusterfuck like their MMA match the previous month. So they actually had a good wrestling match this month, and even with the storyline involved, it was actually not a bad match. The only thing that really hurt that match a whole lot was the very anticlimactic ending with Jarrett just winning with a roll-up. That was the one thing that did hurt that match. But those 3 matches right there at least saved this pay-per-view from being a bad pay-per-view. I would say it was at least a decent to almost good show from TNA. That's what category I would put this show in. Now, the opening match was originally going to be the contenders match, the 3-way contenders match for the X Division Championship, with Robbie E versus Jeremy Buck versus Max Buck, but neither member of the Generation B could make this show. So what they did right here is Robbie E, he came to the ring, told the ref to ring the bell, saying that he won this match. Neither one of them showed up, so told the ref to count to 10. So he won via forfeit. Then Kazarian came out there. Him and Kazarian had a match. That was the opening match of the pay-per-view. It was a pretty decent match. Robbie E, the whole Jersey Shore gimmick is really idiotic. Now, the wrestler behind it, I actually think he's somewhat talented, but the gimmick is just really what hurts it a whole lot. Cannot take him serious one bit. Him and Kaz had a pretty decent match here. Some good back and forth action. The crowd was into it. You would expect a little more from an X Division opener of a pay-per-view, but it was a fairly decent opener, solid opener, and somewhat enjoyable. Kaz won the match after hitting his reverse tombstone pile driver, the Fade to Black, to Robbie E in this match to retain the X Division Championship. And I would say about a 2 1/4, 2.5 star match. Decent way to start the pay-per-view. Then the next matchup was Rob Terry, Gunner, and Murphy versus Beer Money Incorporated and Scott Steiner. This was clearly just a match they pretty much threw together at the last minute right here to do something with Beer Money on this pay-per-view, especially with TNA's tag division right now is not really looking that good because, right now it looks like they're focusing with Generation Me. Looks like they're focusing them with the X division instead of the tag team division right now. Obviously, the Most Machine Guns are broken up and Team 3D are broken up. So really, at this point, other than Gunner and Murphy, and maybe someone else if I'm forgetting anyone, they really don't have any strong competition for the tag team division, so they pretty much are doing this right now, which is unfortunate because Beer Money is a great tag team in TNA, and one of the probably better things in TNA right now is Beer Money Incorporated. Probably one of the best things TNA has going right now, like I said. Gunner and Murphy, they did their typical stuff in here. They are complete jokes in my eyes. Rob Terry, I'm surprised with Rob Terry and Scott Steiner. They're both muscle guys. I'm surprised they didn't do a little more with each other in the ring. Obviously, they did do the thing, stare down, and had a little interaction with each other, but I was expecting them to do a little more. Beer Money made the Gunner and Murphy probably look the best they probably have looked. The end of the match comes when Scott Steiner hits the Frankensteiner onto Gunner for the victory for him and Beer Money to win this match. I'll say about 1.5 stars, maybe 1 3/4 stars. It was at least watchable. Then the next matchup was Samoa Joe versus the Pope, and this match I was actually looking forward to. I thought this might have been a good match. Now, it wasn't a terrible match. It was somewhat good. The problem with it just ended way too quick. They weren't given enough time. The time they were given, they had a somewhat entertaining match. It was like more of something you would expect on TV instead of a pay-per-view. That was the one problem with it. Samoa Joe puts him in the key clutch very quick in this match. It wasn't that long into the match she put him into that. Pope tapped out real quick, and then after the match, Pope attacked Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe got busted open, and then Pope runs to the back when Joe tries to get him, and that's the way that segment ends right there. So obviously they're going to continue. The Pope versus Samoa Joe feud yet again, probably next month. And for the time it was given, what they did, I somewhat enjoyed it, but it just wasn't given enough time and it ended way too quick. I'd probably give it, 2 1/4 stars at best. It was watchable for what they did, but they just weren't given enough time. Too quick of a match. The next matchup was Madison Rayne versus Mickie James, and in a last knockout standing match for the Knockouts Championship. Knockouts match for the title here in a last man standing rules. In this match, decent women's match. The problem I have with it is I don't know why they're waiting so long to put the title on to Mickie James, especially since basically what they're doing with this whole thing with Mickie James and Tara, that's the main focus of the women's division right now, because Tara comes out here, she pretty much distracts Mickie James for a second. That leaves Madison Rayne to get some brass knuckles, hits Mickie James with it. Mickie James is knocked out, and Madison Rayne retains the championship, which doesn't make any sense, because if they want to do this Tara and Mickie James thing, they're obviously that's the main focus of the women's division in TNA. That should be what your title matches, and that's, the championship be on the line there. No one cares about seeing Madison Rayne as champion. It was a decent women's match for what it was. I'll probably give it about 1 3/4 stars. Then after this, they went to Blueprint. Matt Morgan come out there. Hernandez made his return to TNA. He came out here. They brawled, and Hernandez laid him out, beat up the Blueprint Matt Morgan, and a strong return right here for Hernandez right here, so they'll probably build him up very strong. And that's the end of that. Then they go to the next matchup, which was Matt Hardy versus RVD. This was actually surprisingly a good match. Now, their match they had last month I thought was a pretty entertaining match and good for what it was, but this match was a whole lot better. You saw some great back and forth action, a lot of good reversals, counters, just a very entertaining match. Really enjoyed it. Next to the main event, probably the second best matchup on this pay-per-view, and RVD wins this match after hitting the 5-star frog splash, and I would say about a 3 1/4 star match, fairly entertaining match. Then the next matchup, which was a match I don't think anyone cared about, which was this whole Bully Ray, Brother Ray versus Devon feud. What they did was, it was originally going to be a 3-on-1 handicap match, but it kind of basically turned into that. What it turned into at first, it was Bully Ray versus Brother Ray in a singles match, street fight. They brawled with each other back and forth, typical brawl with these two. Then Devon's sons came out there, they got involved. Bully Ray beat them up. Devon then they kind of helped Devon. Devon then got the advantage on him. Then Bully Ray got the advantage. Then towards the end of the match, Bully Ray handcuffed Devon to the middle rope. He was handcuffed. Then he was beating up Devon's sons. And then he just ends up pinning one of Devon's sons within this match, and that's the way the match ends right there, which just doesn't make any sense because it was looked as a, even though the original thing was a 1-on-3 handicap match, it basically was a singles match, and just they come out here and he pins them, and that's the way the match ends. It's just a typical, like back in the day, a WCW type ending right there to the match, considering, it was basically looking like a 1-on-1 match, and they come involved. And, well, hell, we'll just pin them, and that's the end of that match. Then, when Devon's still handcuffed, Brother Ray, Bully Ray, was threatening to hit him with the steel chair. He took it down. There was a table in the ring, and then he powerbombed one of Devon's sons into there. His son got stretchered to the back. And then, obviously, this whole thing with Brother Ray and Devon is going to continue. Actually surprised. I was somewhat expecting maybe a little swerve in this match where they would have done something where Devon's sons would have turned on him or something, because that seems like something Russo would have done, but they didn't do that, thankfully. But I don't think this is any feud that anyone wants to see to continue. For what they did, at best I would give it 1.5 stars, just because they went out there, they tried to put something on, the crowd was somewhat into it. Then the next matchup was Kurt Angle versus Jeff Jarrett. This was the match where the rules went, if Jeff Jarrett, if he won this match, Kurt Angle has to walk down Karen to the ring on the March 3rd Impact, where her and Jarrett renew their vows. And if Kurt Angle won this match, he got custody of his 2 kids in this match if he picked up the victory. And as bad as that gimmick was, and as bad as the storyline involved, and I don't think anyone cares that the storyline involving Karen Angle and stuff, or Karen Angle in this match. I don't think anyone cares about that, but for what it was, even with that, they had a good match, good back and forth action with Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle in here. They did some good stuff. Pretty good, entertaining wrestling match. The only problem with it is it was a very anticlimactic finish where Jarrett pretty much just rolled Kurt Angle up, and that was the end of the match. It kind of did hurt it, but for what it was a decent wrestling match. These two had better matches in the past. I'll give it about 3 1/4 stars. Then the main event was the ladder match for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. This was Mr. Anderson versus Jeff Hardy, and this was a really good ladder match. The only problem with it was I thought it should have been given more time, because it was a damn good ladder match. Easily the best match of the night. Very good ladder match, but I think if it was given maybe 5 to 10 minutes longer, it probably would have maybe gotten the category of being a great ladder match. It was the only problem with this match is it wasn't given enough time, but for what they did a lot of good stuff, a number of good ladder spots in here. And Jeff Hardy wins back the TNA Heavyweight Championship in this match, which you kind of almost figure they might have done that because, they haven't switched the TNA title, the way it looked like, Jeff Hardy's personalized world title. So with that, you kind of thought back in your head, maybe the title will switch right here. I kind of thought they should have kept running with Anderson as champion, but, Hardy's very over with the crowd, so business-wise, considering even Jeff Hardy's problems he has outside the ring, he's very marketable. The crowd loves him, and he's a guy that you would want as champion, at least marketability-wise, even considering the stuff he does outside the ring. And this is easily the best match of the night. 3 1/2 stars. Overall, I'll give this pay-per-view probably about a 6.75, maybe even a 7 out of 10, because there were, the two matches with, the Hardys, Matt Hardy versus RVD, the ladder match with Jeff Hardy versus Mr. Anderson, and even considering the storyline with Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle, that was even a good match. So those 3 matches pretty much helped save the show. The undercard of this pay-per-view was very weak, though. That was the one downturn of the show, was the undercard was very weak. And a lot of TNA pay-per-views recently, a lot of the undercards are very weak, but at least there were a few other things later on the show that did save the show from being at least a good overall show, in my opinion. So I would at least tell people, if they check it out for the ladder match. Check out RVD and Matt Hardy, and check out even Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle, because they had a good match. They had better matches in the past, but for what it was a good match. So those 3 matches right there kind of saved the show in my eyes. So like I said, give it a 6.75 or a 7 out of 10. And yeah, that's it for my TNA Against All Odds 2011 pay-per-view review. All right, peace.